You're up, Jensai. Yeah. Here it is. Here it is. Welcome everybody to Beneath the Surface here at WCAP Radio. Glad you could join us tonight, where faith and reason meets every Wednesday between 10 and 11 p.m. Beneath the Surface, bringing a little sanity into our age of insanity, a little life into our culture of death. We are broadcasting live from the WCAP studios at 9:80 a.m., which is live streamed on TuneIn and WCAP.com, and will eventually end up being podcast on sites throughout the internet. Tonight, my fellow truth seekers, we delve beneath the surface on the question of what is a person? What is a person? And lucky for us, right across the console for me, I happen to have one of those subjects, Mr. John Tuturice.
Hello, it's great to be a person.
Isn't it great to be a person?
Yes, although I would argue that I'm more slightly diagonal than immediately straight across.
Okay, that is true.
Yes.
But for the sake of the radio audience, you are right across from me.
I'm totally right across.
So look, I'm moving this way.
Oh,
so
now we're right across.
Yeah, now
there
it's
is
like a
no
straight
diagonal.
line. Straight line on here. But it is great to be a person, and if you weren't a person, you probably would not be able to reflect that it is great to be you.
That is correct. I would not have intellect. I would not have will.
You would not have an intellect for self-reflection.
Yeah.
And so there is no question of non-persons as to whether you are happy, whether you are sad, whether you're glad you're alive.
Yeah.
Non-persons sort of just live.
Yeah. I would definitely agree with that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're going to talk about that and a lot more beneath the surface tonight. Our phone number, if you would like to join us, is 978-454-4980. That's 978-454-4980. Or you could give us a comment at facebook.com/fellowtruthseekers. That's all one word. Facebook.com/fellowtruthseekers. Okay, well, John, where do we start? How about, what is a person?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Well, they're basically, at least from the way I understand it, it boils down to one of two main philosophies. Either the person is a veritable ghost in the shell.
Okay, that would be dualism.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's actually, a lot of people don't think of it in those terms, but the underlying premise leads to a lot of people's ideologies these days.
Yeah, let's start right there. Let's before we go on to the other one. Dualism. You said a ghost in a shell or a ghost in a machine. The person is understood to be the spirit or the invisible inside parts.
Yep.
And the body is like a shell or a covering.
Yeah.
Or like clothing.
That goes right back to Plato. Plato thought the spirit was the perfection in the person, and the material body was almost like an evil.
Yeah.
And the soul was just trying to escape out of the body.
It was a temporary prison-like state to some dualists.
Right.
But to dualists in general, the soul is the person, the body is a covering, it's temporary, it's accidental, it's not essential to the person.
Right.
And so when a person dies, like you said, most dualists believe that the human being or the person is freed and they can now experience real life as it should be.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay. That is not the traditional Judeo-Christian understanding of what a person is.
That is absolutely
In fact, you find this kind of dualist personal philosophy in Eastern philosophies.
Yeah, Eastern philosophies and some Western too. Obviously, you mentioned Plato and some of his close followers.
So, some of the ancient Greeks, as you said, and also Buddhism, Hinduism, and that kind of thing. And hence, dualism is, at least, it fits into the possibility of reincarnation.
Possible. I mean, Plato himself, as far as I understand,
He
didn't believe it.
He didn't believe
but Pythagoras did.
Okay. But it's fitting. It could. There's nothing that would contradict a dualist understanding of the person, which is simply a soul perhaps going into some. It depends.
Right,
I know what you're thinking.
Yeah, it depends on someone's idea of what the soul
right.
is in essence. And in Plato's mind, reincarnation wouldn't be possible. But if you think that the soul itself is somewhat malleable as far as its essence,
Right.
then
right.
yes, you could.
It could go and form other matter,
Yes.
and you could become something else if somebody using a philosophy. Okay, so then that's dualism. What is another understanding, a popular or a common understanding through history of what a person is?
Well, that actually would go right back to Plato's immediate successor, if you will, and that's Aristotle. And that the person is a body and soul composite, meaning, what's the term you use, holomorphic reality?
Yep. Holomorphic union of body and soul.
Yeah, and so that they're actually inextricably linked, and that the soul is the form of the body, and by form we just mean that it's that the body actually takes its cue, if you will, from the soul.
So the soul informs the body and makes the body let me put it this way. Me and you are both made of matter.
Yes.
Right? And we share the essence humanity, but you're you and I'm me.
Yeah.
And what makes you you and me is our soul.
Yes.
It informs the matter that becomes our body.
Yeah.
And so, okay, so the soul is the form of the body and its life principle.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So then you have two understandings right there of the human person. One is that the person themselves is the soul and the body sort of a temporary covering that you're better off without. And this holomorphic body-soul composite understanding of the human person, which, by the way, is what traditional Judaism and Christianity understand the person to be. We are body-soul composites. It's like having heads and tails of a coin. You don't have the coin without both. You don't have the human being without both.
That's correct. That's correct. The spirit would be considered the first principle of the person, if you will.
Right.
And that the body takes its cue from that. But you're right. The whole person is both.
And the body is essential to the substance of the person.
That's correct.
Right. Now, I will add to that, and some ancients had this understanding, but particularly this is popular in the modern world, and that is materialism. That the person is simply a material body and nothing else.
Yeah, that's in some ways that's almost a modern invention. But it just completely ignores too many things.
It ignores a lot, but if you begin with a materialistic philosophy, a sort of a scientific positivism of reality, then it makes sense in following that logic that persons would just simply be walking, talking bodies until they disintegrate at what we call death and go back into the ground and become other things.
Yeah, that just leaves way too many unanswered questions.
And it's a bit depressing, isn't it?
Very depressing. That's it.
That we exist for maybe a few decades, 8, 9 if we're lucky.
Yeah.
And then the bodies go back into the ground and there is no consciousness after that.
And what's very fascinating, of course, about that type of ideology is that there'll be a fair amount of intellectual thought given to the material minutia of a person, how certain things function. But as soon as it comes to the bigger questions, such as ideas, thought, which are immaterial in themselves, you can't measure them, all of a sudden the intellectual rigor just seems to go out the window.
Yeah. We'll get into that after the break. But I think we're missing something here, and that is, in these three models of what it means to be a person, we've actually described what it means to be a human person.
Well, that's right. That's right, because...
Not necessarily a person in and of itself.
Correct.
Which brings us to the question that I actually was part of the advertisement. Are all humans persons? And are all persons human?
I would say that all humans are persons, but not all persons are human. The person itself is the larger category.
Which one do you want to start with? The fact that all humans are persons, or the fact that all persons are not human?
Wow. I will say it is chef's choice. You shoot.
I didn't realize I was the chef.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's start with all persons are not human. All right. Now, we just went over three common models throughout history of what a human person is, but not necessarily a person, because some persons at least faith and philosophy will tell us do not necessarily have bodies.
That's right.
Elaborate.
Well, starting from the philosophy, Aristotle would say that he reasoned that there had to be beings that have intellect and will,
Yep.
and that do not have material bodies like us, because they don't have material bodies, and that they would be pure spirit as far as their nature. They would actually be more powerful and more intelligent than us, because of that.
Well,
And you call them separated substances.
yeah, separate substances. So we get our knowledge through our senses and into our minds,
Correct.
and then we begin to understand things, and understand the essences of things, and we're able to create thoughts and ideas and sentences and arguments and all that kind of stuff. But it's kind of a laborious process of
It
learning
is.
for us physical humans. It's not immediate like
Yes.
separated substances.
Separating substances would have an infused knowledge by their nature. So, and just to take a little slight side tangent here. So, when we think about time, like how we learn things progressively through time, well, in the ancient philosophy, they would say time measures change in matter.
Yes.
Well, these spiritual beings, these quote-unquote separate substances, have no matter. They're outside of time.
Therefore,
Therefore,
they have no change.
They have no change.
Yeah. Yeah, so they are created as they are and always be.
Yes.
Because there is no growth, there is no maturity, there is no matter for that time to make that occur. Because it's simply because they're, like you said, purely spirit.
Yeah.
Now, Aristotle called them separate substances. When Christianity came on the scene, and of course Aquinas took Aristotle, and all kinds of nice things happened between faith and reason, philosophy and religion, we began to understand angels as being persons without bodies, or personal substances without any physicality.
Yes, and the important thing on that is that it wasn't something new, it was more of a development of what was already there. For example, in the Old Testament, we see in the book of Tobit,
Yep.
there's the angel Raphael guiding Tobias on his journey, and he doesn't actually really need to eat or anything, so there's a certain appearances that are kept up where he's interacting with the material world, but there's something very strange about him where he doesn't actually need the sustenance of the material world
Yeah.
like human persons do.
Very interesting. And there are appearances of several angels in the Old Testament. Isn't
Yes,
there?
there are.
Yeah.
And some of them are these very fantastic, strange visions, and sometimes they're just these really mysterious interactions with people. Tobias, of course, is one example. The other is the three mysterious strangers, if you will,
Visitors, yeah.
visitors that come to Abram,
Yep.
and which are somewhat representative of the Holy Trinity, but at the same time,
Sort of an anti-Trinity.
well, yeah, they're generally thought to be angels. There's this really interesting icon where they have these three angels, and the title, if I'm not mistaken, is the Holy Trinity.
Okay. Well, angels appear in the Old Testament, and they're talked about a lot in the New Testament. Angels are understood to be persons without bodies.
Yes.
So they're not human persons, they're angelic persons.
Yes.
Which then it sort of leads us to ask the question, what is in common between physical persons and spiritual persons? And that is
Spirit, intellect, and will.
spirit, intellect, and will. As Boethius called them, an individual substance of a rational nature. I just to sort of simplify that and say a subject with intellect and will.
Yeah.
We're not only an object like things or animals. We are a subject. We're a person, and hence every person has intellect and will. Now let me ask you this: is the intellect and will the person itself, or does the person have intellect and will?
Well, we would say the person has intellect and will. The person is really the simplified essence, so to speak, and then the intellect.
Well, what does that mean to most people?
So
simplify the language.
Yeah, so we're talking about that there's the singular one, right? So there's this perfect unity of that person,
yes,
and they have certain aspects, right? So if we look at our material body, we would say, well, that's a person, that's Paul, but Paul has an arm over here.
Yeah.
He's got an arm, he's got feet, he's got his afro. These are all aspects of Paul that we see, but there's only one Paul.
Only one Paul, yeah.
Right.
So then the person encompasses the entire body soul composite.
Exactly. And as far as the human person, right?
Yes.
And
I'm going to challenge that after the break, and I'm going to challenge that with not only people in persistent vegetative states, but people in their embryonic state of life,
yes.
and people who have had many transplants, hypothetically, in the future, if people have a brain transplant.
And what about the nature of person and the creator?
Well, we'll get to that too. So all of these questions and more as we delve beneath the surface on the question of personhood. What does it mean to be a person? Across the console for me is the person John. I am the person Paul. Glad that you can personally be with us tonight. We'll be back right after this break. You're listening to Beneath the Surface.